Okay, so I'm going to talk about a new uh, 12-story building that's going up here in Tacoma. First, I want to kind of talk a little bit about what I've been doing at my own house. When I went to San Diego, I just fell in love with palms. Palm trees do grow in Tacoma. They're not the variety that you see in San Diego. They don't get as tall or as big as those, but we are able to get a couple different varieties of palm. I think there's 3 different ones that we can get. Some would argue a fourth, needle palm, sago. Uh, those you won't find as often, but some can argue that you can grow those here. The typical ones that you see are going to be the windmill palm. That's probably most prominent you see around town. And then some say the Mediterranean fan palm or European fan palm. It goes by both names. Those can grow here, and they have the multiple trunks. And so I went and got 2 windmills the other day. I may get 4 more in the back. They're pretty expensive. Put 4 more in the back and maybe get a Mediterranean palm as well. Also have banana plants back here growing, so I have about 4 of those. So we'll see what happens. We're gonna create somewhat of a jungle back there. I really fell in love with the nature. The Airbnb we stayed at almost was like a resort because it had so many different trees. He owned a lot of different buildings right in that area. And all of the wildlife was right in there with all the trees and everything that was created. It was so beautiful. So I can't recreate that at all, but I'm going to definitely try to have, especially since the neighbors cut down the trees back there. We also lopped down a bunch of trees back there too. There's no more trees other than a little tiny area by the other neighbor over here. But those trees were not great trees at all. They were just, they were more problem than what they were worth. The rats lived in a lot of those trees, so getting rid of those have been a blessing. But anyhow, you guys don't care about that. Be sure to join the Discord down in the description box below. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and comment. I've had someone say, "Hey, Hirsch, I'm glad you're doing videos again." Their general comment was, they're wanting to move here in 25, maybe at the end of 24. And they're saying, they saw the news about Tacoma being, one of the hottest places to live or the best places to live, and they're wanting to move here. Now, one thing I will tell you is that a lot of people move to Tacoma, and there's a lot of people that move out of Tacoma. Happens all the time. I think with every city you're going to see that. Tacoma, on the other hand, is in that weird phase of flux. You have people moving in, you have people moving out quite a bit, but I think what you're going to see is more of a gain rather quickly, and we're seeing more of a gain. The city is still growing by leaps and bounds, and this particular project here is one of those. Now, we'll say we have 2 stalled construction projects downtown due to financing. One is the tracks development, which hopefully something comes of that because it's in a very prime area right in the Dome District. So it'd be great if that would get fixed. And then the Tacoma Town Center, same thing. Big, huge project. Probably it needs to be modified based on what the folks are wanting to do. To be honest with you, that project should have by far more retail, maybe doubling of retail, hiring a firm to bring in various different stores. Tacoma is definitely ready for that. So to be honest with you, that project to me should have at least 200 to 300,000 square feet of commercial retail. Now, some would say, Herschel, that's a crazy thought. But when you look at the amount of people that will be moving into downtown, we're literally doubling the population of people who live downtown. It makes a lot of sense. Keep in mind that right now, under construction, there's about 4,000 units that are going online. And that means that they're in various different phases. Some of them look like they're a completed building on the outside, such as the Rook, which was that 2 separate buildings, but they're connected. Large monstrosity. That building looks complete, and on the outside it is, but on the inside they're still putting in sinks and walls and cabling and all that. So that building, while massive, is not ready yet. The other building, Jefferson Square, one of the two. One of them is the name of the building that's right there in the town center, but the other one is the gigantuan building that's up there in the the brewery district. That is a monstrously huge building. It's going to take some time just because the building is just so big. It's going to take some time to finish that. So we're talking about buildings like those where you have some that on the outside look complete. The other building on the outside, you can tell they have scaffolding and there's stuff that needs to be done. But you're starting to see all of these different phases of development. Some have broken ground in the Dome District. There's one that has broken ground. There's others that are already putting up the wood deck on these things. And so you're seeing a lot of development. Interestingly enough, the folks that are in tracks as well as the town center, their financing is not holding up. So they're in a hold pattern. We'll see what happens with those. But the folks that were designing or had something to do with the tracks also had something to do with this project I'm talking about, which is in this thumbnail. You know, I have always complained about these short, small buildings that take up a lot of space, and they're not really fulfilling the need that the city has in terms of housing. Keep in mind, by 2040, we're going to add, according to the city, 127,000 people in Tacoma, in addition to what we have. So if that's the case, it would easily make Tacoma the second largest city in the state, hands down. We already are kind of nipping away at Spokane. Spokane's technically the second largest city, but it's the only city when you're over in that part of the state. It's the only city for several states that really has some gravitas to it. No shame against anybody else. Boise, Idaho is pretty decent size as well. But in that general area, it is the city. Down here, we share a lot. There's so many suburbs that kind of suck the air out of the room. And then, of course, Seattle completely takes about 80% of that air. So Tacoma only has about 2-3% of air in any conversation when people are talking about it, except for when you leave this area and you go someplace else and you talk about Tacoma, or people talk about the city and they want to relocate or live here. A big crop of people come from California into Tacoma. There are realtors that mainly focus and work with people who come from California into Tacoma. It is a pretty common occurrence. This particular project that's in the thumbnail is a 12-story building, and I've long said we need to have buildings that are much taller. 12 stories is getting there. It's still not quite the spot, but 12 stories, we need several of those. I talked about once before there was a 10-story, now this is a 12-story. This, to me, is the largest building built from ground up. If they haven't started yet, but if they complete it, it will be the largest residential building within the last 20 years that has been constructed from the ground up. We're talking about in terms of height, in terms of floors. It may be passed over. Maybe there will be something else in the future. But the same folks that were involved in tracks had something to do with this particular project. However, they left this project, and the developer is from Los Angeles, called Pinnacle LGS. They're basically a company that supplies metal building parts to projects. So they create basically these prefabricated pieces and they ship them wherever they need to go, and it helps in the process. They've never built an actual structure before. So when that opportunity left, you have a company here that says, why not? Let's take on this project. And so now they're in control of the project. They bought the land for about $2.2 million. They owned the land. They were going to have another party actually develop this, but now they're going to be one of the main developers, and they're going to hire contractors. It's going to have 233 units. It's going to be called Star Residence. This $70 million project is about 12 stories tall, 162,000 square feet. I didn't see anything that said anything about retail. So again, it goes back to my point of why the town center should definitely increase the amount of retail that it's going to have, if that ever does make it. And it is a prefabricated type of project. So it's a modular building, meaning that they build the actual sections of the building, these square sections, and they put them in place one after the other. Similar to, the easiest way to understand this is looking at shipping containers. Those are kind of modular construction in a way, because you take one big giant module and you put it where it needs to go. It's already done essentially on the outside. You just got to go on the inside and make it pass code and all the other things, right? This is different, but it's kind of similar. They basically manufacture these sections, they build it, put it on a truck, they bring it there, and they hoist it into place, and they continue on with their construction. This is on the 1100 block of Tacoma Avenue South. Tacoma Avenue has gotten, it is kind of like residential row. There are so many projects being developed along this that really, Pierce Transit, in my opinion, should build some sort of a light rail line connecting that street into the T-Link line. That area is so concentrated with new apartment development that it's something that needs to, we need to take a look at that. So you're seeing a lot of different projects go up here in the city. Another one that's actually going up is actually not Artibus, but the same developer that's building Artibus is also, I forget what it's, Cornice House. That project is going up right there on the corner of 25th and Pack Avenue. Again, a monster of a building, and they're trying to shove about 200 and something units right into that particular space. Again, downtown is still very much alive. Now, when can we start seeing a lot of these things open up? Well, this construction for this 12-story building is not going to start until November of this year. Obviously, you go at probably a good 16 months in terms of 16 to 18 months in terms of construction time. That is, if permits and everything are filled out and done correctly, which is probably what they're doing now. Everything is ready to go. There's no supply chain issues, no financial issues. You're talking 16 to 18 months for this newest 12-story building to get completed. There are other projects that were going to happen, but hasn't happened. And the property owners still own the land. So it could be something that happens later. But generally, all of the projects that have been planned for Tacoma are still ongoing, still being developed, different phases of development, from broken ground all the way to outside shell completed. They're working on the inside. The Rook is one of those buildings that will take some time to build because there is virtually no retail space. So every section of that building has to be completely finished. It's not going to be a cold shell anywhere like what you will see in a lot of these new buildings being completed for their retail. It's not going to be this cold shell area where there's no walls or anything. It's just studs or metal beams. You're able to actually walk into a completely finished building from head to foot, and people are able to move in. The difference is the Rook also offers no commercial retail space. So we're seeing more and more and more of that, which can be a good thing, but also we're creating a lot of pent-up demand. So we'll see what happens. Tell me what your thoughts are. For those who are wanting to move here, renting is probably going to be your best bet because the interest rates are just so high. There are a lot of people who are selling homes right now. They're having a hard time because A, it's just so expensive to borrow money. A lot of these projects are on hold because they just don't have the funding to do it, and it's harder to get money. It's harder to qualify. But with that said, there's a lot of projects already completed. Downtown would be the place. If you're new to the city, you're wanting to move here, you don't know exactly where you want to go, I would say downtown would be the top choice. From there, you can kind of decide where you want to move to after that. But downtown's going to offer a lot of variety, a lot of options, a lot of entertainment, a lot of different things that other areas may not be able to offer. Anyhow, tell me what your thoughts are. Be sure to join the Discord down in the description box below. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and comment. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.